Georgia's running game, and how do you kind of slow them down?
Yeah, I mean, they first of all have a very physical offensive line. The running backs elite, and they really got a good stable of running backs that can find a seam, and it's pretty simple. Good runners run where you're not, and those guys can pick gaps and seams, and they can take a small hole and accelerate through it and make it a double-digit, gain that way. But it starts with their offensive line being physical. Quarterback does a good job. He's a really smart guy, so you can get him in the right, plays and all that kind of stuff. And then, it's like anything. Their team, they do a good job of blocking. Their wideouts do a good job of blocking. So, it's really a team effort for them to be successful running the ball, and they've done a good job with it.
Does Swift remind you of anybody? He's a pretty dynamic guy.
Each running back's kind of got their own style. I think the biggest thing with him is he's got really good acceleration. He can run through tackles, so you got to make sure that you bring your pads and bring your feet, and you've got to take the air out of the hole, and you got to shrink it and give him less room to run, because he's a guy that can make the first guy miss, and he can put his foot in the ground and change direction. Like I said, he'll run where you're not. So, playing defense against a guy like that, it really gets down to team defense and making sure that, we set the edge, build a wall, and compress, the running lanes to where he doesn't have as much space to run the ball.
He's kind of a pass-catching threat, too, and pretty smooth there.
I mean, he's a guy that they try to get the ball in the back, out of the backfield. And anytime you have a guy that has his kind of speed or athletic ability, if he can catch, just a simple option route or something in the flat, he can make a guy miss and turn it into a, double-digit gain. So obviously we've got to be aware of that and account for that, and, be ready to play a good team.
What stands out about Jake Fromm to you?
I think a couple things is, one, first of all, he's really competitive, and I think that breeds to the team. He's a smart guy. I mean, he's probably, when you look at football IQ of guys, he's going to be an elite guy, as smart as anyone that we'll see, or you could play at this level or the next level. And then he's accurate with the ball. So I think those three things are the biggest thing I see with him is his competitive nature, his ability to see things, and his IQ. And then he is accurate with the ball when he's throwing it.
Missed tackles against LSU. I guess Dan a couple weeks ago said there were about 10 of them.
Yeah.
Do you think they got better at South Carolina, and just how?
Yeah, I think we got better. I thought really the South Carolina game, like I said last week, there's a couple double-digit runs there that if you eliminate that, and if you just look at the total game, I mean, up until it became a 3-possession game, I mean, they were right at like 4-3 or something per play. We obviously have to eliminate those plays, but I think that the emphasis that we've put on it, the way we practice, I think the combination of all that has led us to be where we need to be, so we've got ready to play good on Saturday.
You've been on both sides of this rivalry. What was it like in Jacksonville with that environment, the stadium split?
I think it's an awesome environment, because that's why you work and grind and do the things you do, because it's a bowl-type atmosphere. It is probably the loudest that place gets all year, it's pretty dynamic that way. There's a lot of energy in it. And obviously there's a lot riding on the game in itself when you got 2 top 10 teams. So the combination of the quality of teams, the pageantry, the passion of the fans, the energy, the fact that, it's basically 50-50 as far as the fans go, as far as who's in the game, creates a lot of energy and excitement. It's fun to play in.
It always seems like that kind of, whoever wins that game is in the driver's seat for the SEC East. Does that add to the rivalry?
Well, I think that, we always preach that, every game is important. And then obviously SEC East games are, a little bit more important, because those are the guys that you're trying to get to Atlanta and with who you're playing. I think that anytime you have a quality team that is not going to lose many games, if you can win that game, that gives you an advantage. So I think that definitely makes an important game, and we understand that, and we got to go play.
How do you integrate Jon and Jabari in this week without rushing them back too quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been pretty patient with them, and I thought they did a good job today practicing and moving around. And we'll have them in their packages and let them play. And then the biggest thing as a coach is I've always worked to have communication with players. Just kind of let me know how you're doing, and as we go, they'll play. And if they need a blow, we'll build it in, and kind of give them blows as needed, and just kind of rotate that way with communication.
You said they looked okay today.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about them as pass rushers, obviously, but how much do they help compress and kind of set the edge more so than maybe the guys that are younger?
Yeah, because they're bigger and they're stronger and, you know, they're older. I mean, all of that. I mean, you know, I think anytime you lose guys like that, it can affect you in everything you do because they're physical guys at the point of attack. They're guys that can get off blocks. They're guys that can win the one-on-one blocks, set the edge, like you said. So I think anytime you remove one, you're dinging yourself. And if you move two, that's, you know, ends up being a challenge, which our guys have handled and really did a good job against South Carolina. So we just got to, you know, we've kind of got some depth now with him coming back. You kind of feel comfortable in playing maybe some other guys, maybe a few snaps that maybe you wouldn't have earlier.
Are you looking forward to playing poker with a full deck? It seems like you guys have been hurt almost all the year.
I wouldn't want to play poker without a full deck. 'Cause I'm like,
You feel like you have all your tools maybe this week, though?
I mean, you know what? I've always looked at it as who's available you play with, and you find ways to play and make plays. I mean, obviously, when you're at full strength, that creates excitement, and you know, you kind of work to try to create matchups. But I've kind of always looked at here are the guys available, and then how do we get them to do what we got to do to win the game.
What's the one thing the defense needs to do better, I guess, this week than maybe it hasn't to the standard you want this season?
Is
there anything that just stands out?
I don't know. I would say that this week we just need to play to our ability and our identity. And I'm not saying we haven't done that during the season, but when you get into big games like this, there's a lot of excitement. You just need to play and don't do more than your job. Don't do more than what we're asking you to do. Just do your job to the best of your ability, and that's all you can do. And if you do that and prepare all week, we'll be fine. So I think that in these kind of games, you got to take the approach that I understand it's going to be a lot of excitement and things like that, but it really gets down to execution and doing what you're supposed to do. Like, you can't give up easy plays. You can't give up easy yards, easy points. You've got to be hard to score on and those kind of things. So I would kind of cater my answer to this game in the sense of we understand the importance, we understand what's at stake. You know, that's why you come to Florida to playing games like this. But to win this game, we have to just basically do our job.
Did you see a business-like approach out there today?
I thought they did a good job. You can tell that they're excited to play the game, and they're preparing the right way. And we just got to continue to do that and just make sure we do our job and play to our ability.
I know last season you said you were able to use that goal line stand sort of as an example of this is our identity, this is who we want to be. So it's different guys, a different group, but is that something you can still use as an example?
I think that we used that early on to build to where we are now. I think if you go back and look at our team, I mean, I think that identity and that toughness kind of showed up at Kentucky. You know, when you know, Felipe goes down and it's 4th and 1, if we don't get that 4th and 1 stop, we probably don't win the game. So I think it showed up there. I think that when you look at the game, like the Auburn game, there were some sudden change situations where you had to go play. And so I think that it's kind of shown up throughout the year because we preach it. Because I think that as a coach, you can create that with your attitude and the way you coach and the way you teach and that kind of thing. So we just try to build upon that to make sure that we understand this is who we are. And there's a certain way we have to play for us to be successful.
When Dan went up against Gus Malzahn, praised his play calling acumen. When you go against a guy like Kirby, and what's something you like about the way that he calls defense?
Kirby, I think they do a good job. They have a lot of stuff. So, I mean, it's like, I don't think you can really isolate a guy. I mean, they're going to have answers, you know, so it's kind of like, you know, if we do this, they're going to do this, and then you got to go to the next thing. So I think that they do a good job of you know, making it hard to run on them, and they're going to have answers for how they run the ball, and then they're going to, I know that they've worked hard to improve their, you know, their havoc rate, you know, their pressure on the quarterback and things like that, and they do have ways to generate pressure. It's not always, say, all-out blitz. It can be what we call simulated pressures, meaning it looks like a blitz, but in actuality there's still only 4 guys rushing. It's just different dudes rushing, or they could have their 4 guys rushing with edge guys and play coverage to take certain guys away or certain things away relative to, you know, the formation and things like that. So I think those are the things that he does a good job with, and that's why they've been successful.